Now a row is threatening to overshadow the new university's watchdog, with Boris Johnson forced to defend one of its board members. The outcry is over the writer Toby Young's role and comes after historical comments that he wrote online resurfaced, including derogatory remarks about women and gay people. So is he, as Mr Johnson has said, the ideal man for the job? Well, I'm joined now by education editor at Spiked, Dr Joanna Williams, and also Owen Jones, author of The Establishment and How They Get Away with It. Joanna Williams, to you first of all. Lots of quotes that I could put to you that Toby Jones has said. Lots of them I actually can't say on air. What's happened to Claudia Winkleman's breasts? Put on some weight, girly. Is he really the right man for the job, somebody who sends these kind of messages out?
Yes, I think he is, and I think he is for a number of reasons. The first is that he is a member of a board of 15. He's not leading this board. He's not going to be running UK universities. I think the response has been completely hysterical. I mean, totally unhinged and out of all proportion to the appointment, in a way that's quite embarrassing, really, for academics, and quite embarrassing reflection of the state of political and educational debate in this country today. I think this tendency that we have to dredge up something that a controversial journalist may have tweeted 20 years ago and kind of hold that against them today, instead of judging somebody like Toby on the state schools that he's opened, on all the working class children in London that are now receiving a very good education as a result of his efforts. I think those things are far more important than something he may have said 20 years ago.
Well, that was 8 years ago, but that's beside the point. Let's put those points to Owen Jones. Owen, hysterical and embarrassing?
No, not at all. Look, first of all, this just reeks of Tory nepotism. This is somebody with no relevant experience whatsoever
running
in the university
three free
sector.
schools, and he's written a book on primary education.
As I've just said, he has absolutely no relevant experience in the university sector whatsoever. He's helping to regulate the nation's universities. There are loads of exceptional candidates out there who do have relevant experience, who've been overlooked, but they're not a Tory pundit with strong links to Tory cabinet ministers. It does tell us how this country works, incidentally, that people of very limited ability, because of who they know, can make it to various powerful positions. But the other point is this. Look, the stuff he's accused, well, not accused, the stuff he tweeted and he wrote was not something he wrote as a teenager or in his 20s or in his 30s. It was as a man in his 40s, a professional journalist, who described disabled children as illiterate troglodytes with a mental age of 8 years old, who called for eugenics to be used, to be deployed with children, who obsessively leered over women's breasts, countless women, politicians, celebrities amongst them. He's somebody who's made outrageous homophobic comments, penis breath for one of them. I can't really say many of them on national television, I've just realised, because they're so outrageous. Horrendous sexual descriptions of women and what he'd like to do to them. This is a man who has made exceptionally bigoted comments repeatedly as a grown man in his 40s, who's been appointed to this position simply because he's a Conservative pundit, he's well connected. And I'll say this quickly, this speaks volumes about the Conservatives. One of the reasons they lost their majority at the last election is because they're on a collision course with the decency and the values of the majority of people in this country. And if they want to show that they're waging a culture war like this, then they're going to end up losing the next general election. They're going the right way about it.
The Conservative Party vote did go up, though, so let's not forget that. Just taking on some of those points, Joanna Williams, you first of all, do you think that he... Sorry, I just want to put your points to Joanna. Do you think that Owen's point that he has got a background in free schools, he has written books on education, that doesn't make him qualified to be on a board that's looking at university level education? It's very different from the experience he has, isn't it?
I think it misunderstands the nature of these boards. I mean, boards like this have all kinds of people on who bring all kinds of experience to the board, and that's the nature, to prompt some discussion. You want people with experience of all kinds of educational, from all kinds of educational backgrounds. But I think the hysteria around Toby Young's appointment actually, to me, shows the need to have Toby Young on this board. You need to shake up the cosy world of academia. You need to challenge the political consensus that's formed around higher education nowadays. And the reason why I described this hysteria here is embarrassing is because all this focus on Toby Young actually ignores some of the real problems that are there in higher education nowadays. There's now a petition to get Toby Young sacked from this post. But what are we supposed to believe from that will occur from this petition? That if we get somebody nicer, somebody more politically acceptable to academics, somebody who the left approves of, then all will be well with the Office for Students. Actually, the problems in higher education go far deeper than who is sitting on the board of the Office of Students. If academics have got any integrity or any self-respect, they should be campaigning against the Office for Students, not against the one person of Toby Young. The Office for Students is intended to promote the marketisation of higher education, to give greater preeminence to student satisfaction, and all of those things erode the autonomy of universities. Toby Young is a complete irrelevance and a side issue to this, and academics have allowed themselves to be distracted.
Let's give Owen a chance to come back on that. Owen?
Well, I wish Toby Young was an irrelevance, but sadly that's not the case. This isn't hysteria. This is simply people objecting to a man with no relevant experience whatsoever who has made a series of sexist and homophobic comments.
The point that Dr. Williams made is that actually you need people with different levels of experience on these kind of boards. And actually somebody with primary school experience might be quite a useful person to look at. Why some children in primary schools then don't make it to university, for example. He does have some experience.
I think you can find somebody with relevant experience who has not been appointed because he's a Conservative pundit who happens to be on first-name terms with members of the Conservative cabinet, who has a history of making sexist and homophobic comments, as well as, I'd say, very disturbing comments about eugenics and about disabled children who... No, come on.
I was going to say to you, Owen,
who he described as troglodytes, as illiterate troglodytes with the mental age of 8. That is not somebody who is suitable. And as I've said, look, Boris Johnson, the Foreign Secretary today, said it's caustic humour to describe to use homophobic and sexist and demeaning comments about women and gay people.
He himself has described as Toby Young himself as sophomoric and politically incorrect, and has deleted some 8,500 tweets. But I just want to ask one thing to Owen. You may not agree, and I may not agree with lots of the things that he said, but should having politically incorrect views preclude somebody from having a role in public office? He's not an MP. He's not a religious leader. If somebody may have experience in a pertinent sector, should the fact that they may be racist or may be sexist, and I'm not saying that Toby Jones is either of those things, but his tweets stand up for themselves, don't they? But why should that preclude him doing the job? Because it seems to me that your annoyance appears to be more that he is, as you describe, a Conservative pundit.
Sorry, you're describing people using terms like penis breath as a homophobic insult, and people who said about anally penetrating women, about describing a gay celebrity who spoke to a straight man that he wanted to, and I quote, bum him. And you're saying that these are just political views to disagree with.
No,
They're not political views.
And I'm not defending anything at all he said. What I'm saying is, because somebody has expressed some opinions which other people, find reprehensible, does this preclude him from public office?
Sorry, can I just answer your question? The point I'm saying is that you're saying this is just this is a view. It's not a view. You're saying that homophobia and sexism just happens to be a point of opinion which we just can disagree with or agree with, as though it's I don't know, should we tax the rich more or should we nationalise the railways? They're political views. We may have disagreements. Me and Toby Young happen to have very strong disagreements on all those topics. I know that because I've debated him in this very studio. But that's a separate issue for making comments repeatedly, leering comments about women's breasts, making homophobic comments, and talking about disabled children as illiterate troglodytes with the mental age of 8. And the point is, he's only been appointed because he's a Conservative pundit who happens to be well-connected with Conservative ministers. It's nepotism, and it shows the ugly heart of the Conservative Party.
OK, so finally, Dr. Joanna Williams, we've only got seconds left. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. We've only got 10 seconds left. I was going to get you to come back on it, but the debate will continue online. Sky News, lots more coming up.